Hello, welcome to the City of Ottawa podcast series, OttaTalk, where we talk with staff about city programs and projects. Today, we OttaTalk about flooding in your street, in your yard, but hopefully never in your basement. Actually, hopefully never in any of those places.
Our theme music to start the show is titled Smooth Samba by Anshito. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We start and end every podcast with a local artist featured on the City Sounds playlist on SoundCloud. You can find a link to our playlist in our show notes, and you'll hear more from Anshito at the end of our podcast.
When I hear the band playing that place across the street, I just have to say, I hope that they play that smooth samba.
My name is Marlene Alt. I'm a senior communications officer with the City of Ottawa. In that role, I work with different city departments to advise them on communicating about their projects, programs, and progress, and do some of the writing as well. We're always looking for new ways to share information with our residents, and this podcast series is one of them.
And my name is Aziz Khalil, a strategic support coordinator with planning, development, and building services. I'm the department's communications lead, supporting internal and external communications across a range of files. We're excited to talk to you today about flooding, as odd as that may sound. We'll answer questions like, how can I prevent flooding in my basement and on my property? How can the city help me? And how's the city helping itself solve the same problems?
To get those answers, we'll be joined by Connor Renouf, who is an outreach and communications coordinator with our Climate Change and Resiliency service. So stay tuned, Ottawa. We can't stop the rain, but with Connor's help, we can certainly tell it where to go.
Before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping notes. Any city programs or services we talk about today will be in the program notes wherever you're streaming this podcast, or you can search for them on the city's website, ottawa.ca. The program notes also have a link in the city's YouTube channel where you will find our entire podcast archive. If you have a comment or question about any of our podcasts, please send us a message at podcast-balado@ottawa.ca.
So the word flooding conjures up different things to different people. For some, flooding is what happens when the river overflows. That's called riverine flooding. It is most common in the spring when the snow melts, both locally and further up north. That spring event is called the freshet. And actually, that would be a good topic for a future podcast, right, Aziz? For others, flooding is what happens in their street or yards or even basements after a heavy rainfall. The city has programs to deal with all these kinds of flooding. But today, we're talking mostly about flooding on your property, particularly your basement or in your yard. And today we have an ocean of information about flooding, and we're going to wade through as much of it as we can. Aziz, have you ever had to battle flooding or drainage issues?
You know what, Marlene? Honestly, I've been lucky. No basement flooding, knock on wood, yet. But every spring or after those big summer storms, I definitely find myself, checking around the foundation just to make sure everything's still dry. I think it's one of those things that you don't think about too much until it actually happens to you. And then suddenly you're all about downspouts and sump pumps. So while I may not have lived through it, I know it's something that a lot of residents deal with. And that's why I'm really looking forward to learning more today.
Yeah, I've lived in 8 different homes in different areas of town and in buildings of various ages and stages of repair. But luckily, I've never had a drop of unwanted water in my basement. So I'm not an expert on flooding, but our guest is.
Indeed, and that's why we've invited him today. So Connor Renouf is an outreach and communications coordinator in the city's Climate Change and Resiliency services. For the past 2 years, he's been responsible for coordinating our Rain Ready Ottawa program and in supporting city engagement on stormwater retrofit projects. Connor, welcome to OttaTalk.
Thanks for having me here today.
So, first question, Connor. If my basement has never flooded before, is it safe to say that it probably never will?
Well, the short answer is no. Unfortunately, there's definitely a case that your basement could still flood. And a big contributor to that is going to be climate change and changes to our weather patterns. As a result of that, they're going to increase the intensity and frequency of rainfall events, and that might lead to more basement flooding. So these more intense rainfall events can overwhelm sewer systems and increase the risk of flooding in our streets and our homes. Residents are encouraged to reduce that risk by taking some actions, both inside and outside, that I'm here to talk about today.
Okay, and are there different causes for basement flooding?
Generally, homes that are connected to a main sewer in the street by a pipe, which is often called a sewer lateral, may have flooding happen in their basement as a result of surcharging, so reverse flow coming up the other direction. Likewise, another potential source of basement flooding can be poor stormwater management on your property, such as the water dispersing from your downspouts that may be getting too close to your basement foundation and seeping in through there, or perhaps entering through poorly sealed windows or cracks in other places.
That sounds potentially nasty. I mean, the property damage, odors, inconvenience, cost of repairs. So what are some of the things homeowners can do to prevent their basements from flooding?
Yeah, so the good news is there's lots of quick, effective, and relatively easy things that homeowners can do to protect their homes. One of the first things you can do is reduce the volume of runoff coming from your property by undertaking a very, very affordable solution, which is redirecting your downspout away from your foundation onto a permeable surface, or perhaps installing a rain barrel to capture some of that excess runoff. If your downspout directly connects into a sewer system or a foundation drain, it's really advisable that you disconnect it, because that can cause a lot of extra water to enter that system and really increase your risk of a surcharge event. And then likewise, you're going to want to seal window wells and any cracks, the floors, walls, and the foundations. For myself personally, when I moved into my recent home, I was aware that there have been some basement flooding issues in the past, so I undertook some of these simple steps myself. So I had downspouts that dispersed too close to my foundation. I noticed a lot of ponding there, so I made sure to redirect them about 3 meters away from it, so now it's safely getting away from there. And then I had a single window well that had also been identified as a source of a problem, so I sealed that up, put a new kind of raised the grate around it to protect it. So now I've kind of alleviated that issue, but always looking to ways to improve and better protect myself.
There's a term that I often hear, and it's a backwater valve. Now, I'm not an expert on this, and I would like to hear a little bit more, Connor. So what exactly is a backwater valve, and how would I know if I have one?
Yeah, so a backwater valve is installed on the sewer and storm laterals in your basement, so you're typically probably going to have 2 of those. If you have a combined system, you're probably only going to have 1. Under normal conditions, the gate on a backwater valve is open so that wastewater from showers, toilets, your sinks can flow through the lateral to the main sewer, no problem. But in a surcharging event, when water's kind of moving in that opposite direction and trying to come into your basement, that gate is going to get closed by the water pressure and prevent water from entering your home. So when that surcharging ends, the gate's going to open up and wastewater is now going to flow once again in the correct direction. So if you don't know if you have one, or you want to know if you've got one, it's best to have a licensed plumber come in. This is where you're going to need the professionals. So if your home was kind of built after 2004, it's likely that you're going to have had one installed on your private storm sewer lateral. And then if it was built after 2012, you'll probably also have one on your private sanitary sewer lateral. But again, if you're unsure, it's always important to get that professional in there to have a look.
I've got some homework to do. My house was built in the 90s, and I have no idea. And I want one of those. Something else I've heard about a lot is a sump pump. So what are those? When should you have them?
Yeah, so sump pumps are something that are going to be installed within a sump pit. And when I was a kid, this was the scary black hole into the basement floor that I didn't know what was down there. But this is actually a place that is going to kind of collect some excess rain and groundwater conveyed by perhaps your foundation drains or weeping tiles located around the perimeter of your home. And then within that is that sump pump itself. So when the water level in that sump pump increases within that sump pit, it's going to get activated, and it's going to pump the water from the pit through a discharge pipe to the storm sewer system, or perhaps just to disperse onto your property into a place that is able to absorb it.
So, Connor, I'll be honest with you. I don't know too much about gardens. There is one thing I've heard of. It's called a rain garden. I hear that term quite often, but I'm hoping you can tell our listeners a little bit more about what a rain garden is.
Sure. Yeah. So a rain garden is a bowl-shaped garden that is specifically designed to capture and infiltrate stormwater into the ground. So this is something you can redirect a downspout to, or a sump pump to, for example, to capture that and utilize the power of native plants to get that water into the ground, as opposed to having it turn into runoff or cause other issues on your property. So in that sense, they're both functional, but also very attractive, because we're encouraging people to utilize native plants because they're going to be well suited to these conditions that you're going to be creating with the rain garden. Because ideally, you're not going to be one who's having to go out there and water them. They're only going to get watered by these rainfall events. So you're going to be looking for plants that are both drought tolerant, but also able to deal with a long period of inundation as a result of a rainfall event. So think things like New England aster, blazing star, swamp milkweed, So, and these are something that you can really take on the work of yourself. So Rain Ready does have an online e-learning course that goes over the steps to install a rain garden that you can check out by going to the program website. Or you can also utilize the assistance of a certified and trained professional called a Fusion Landscape Professional. So we likewise have more information on those folks on the program website. Or perhaps you're just thinking, maybe I want to go and just see what one of these look like before I kind of get too far into it. So the city has also installed some demonstration rain gardens at community buildings across the city. They are currently at Manordale and Pierre Rock Park, as well as Aquaview Park. These are places that you can go, see what one looks like, how it matures, and how it properly functions. And for those who even want to kind of learn about it, kind of in person, we are going to be installing some more rain gardens throughout the year. So I encourage people to look out for more information about that, because they can come join a planting event, interact with a landscaper, and help out a beautiful new asset to their community.
Connor, you referred to priority areas in the city. How would I know if my house is in a priority area?
Yeah, so if you go to ottawa.ca/rain, there is an eligibility checker right there on the webpage. You can just insert your address into that, and it will tell you if you are in a stormwater retrofit priority area and if you are eligible for the Rain Ready Ottawa rebates.
Cool. Sounds easy. Thanks.
So there's just two other city projects that I would also like to talk about for a moment. So later this year, the city is going to be installing a bioretention median at the Dovercourt Recreation Center as a part of a comprehensive parking lot renewal at that facility. So now at that facility, stormwater within the parking lot is going to be directed towards the median and is going to be infiltrated there into the ground as opposed to turning into runoff. Likewise, last year, the city also installed some tree cells along Glebe Avenue that are specifically, again, designed to help get more stormwater infiltrated into the ground there and also better protect the health of the trees and help them grow even more successfully within the right-of-way.
That was tree cells?
Yes, tree cells.
Let's pivot a bit. You know, we've been talking about some terms and definitions, but an always popular topic is funding programs. So I'm curious to know, are there any funding programs that are available for residents?
Yeah, so the city has got two programs that can help residents with the cost of some of these projects. So the first of these is the Residential Protective Plumbing Program, and that's a rebate program that can help with the installation of backwater valves and sump pumps to, again, help prevent water from entering your home. Eligible devices can include both the interior and exterior backwater valves, sump pumps, and this can also include a secondary sump pump with some backup power. And it covers the costs of the required building permit as well at 100%. In terms of availability, this program is available citywide, which is pretty great to hear. However, you know, for some of the specific rebates within it, you are going to need to be connected to the city storm or sanitary services. But for more information and how to apply, you can go to ottawa.ca/RPPB.
Great. Now, another program we've heard about quite a bit, I think has been popular, is called Rain Ready Ottawa. Can you talk a bit about that? For example, some of the elements involved, like the rain garden?
Yeah, sure thing. So Rain Ready Ottawa is kind of like the outside solution for your home. So RPPP is going to help with those interior issues, and Rain Ready Ottawa is going to come in there to help you with any kind of problems you're experiencing with stormwater management with regards to your landscape. So through this program, you can access a lot of guidance and information as well as rebates of up to $5,000 if you live within some of the priority stormwater retrofit areas. So these are places where the city has determined that things like rain gardens, soak-away pits, downspout redirections can have a really positive impact on stormwater runoff within these areas, not just for homeowners, but also on the health of local waterways. We're thinking places like Pinecrest Creek, Sawmill Creek, and Bilberry Creek.
That sounds awesome, but it sounds to me more of a preventative measure. Now, I'm curious to know, what would happen if I've already had a flooded basement? Are there any types of programs for that?
Yeah, so the city's got a compassionate grant program that was recently updated. So if you kind of experience any flooding events after March 1st, 2025, either if you're a homeowner or if you're a tenant, you've been impacted by sewer surcharging, for example, this compassionate grant program can provide you with a $1,000 grant to help with cleanup or replacement costs after a flood such as this. So again, this is a program that is available to residents in all parts of the city. And I encourage people to go to ottawa.ca/CG to find out more about it, especially if this is an event that you have experienced recently.
All right, let's switch the focus a bit from residential to the city's own facilities. And in the spirit of being the change you want to see, how is the city doing similar work on some of its own properties?
Yes, there's a lot of cool stuff that the city is doing out there in support of, first thing we're going to kind of talk about is those retrofit programs that I mentioned there as a part of Rain Ready. You know, the city has been installing its own kind of versions of permeable pavements and rain gardens at select sites throughout the city. For example, the Carlingwood Library branch recently got a permeable pavement parking lot installed. You can spray a hose on it, dump all kinds of water, and it gets absorbed right away. So, you know, if you're looking for something to do on the weekends or whatever, just go down there with a bucket of water and just go at it.
Okay, so lastly, Connor, I'm wondering, when is a good time to do the work if I want to make changes to my home?
I mean, the best time is right now. You know, if you're ready and this is something you're concerned about, you know, don't delay. You know, check out these programs, take the steps necessary, and get moving in a direction that you can better protect yourself.
All right, well, I think we squeezed almost every drop out of this topic. This is the end of the podcast, but not the end of the conversation. Remember to visit ottawa.ca for more information on the projects or programs you heard about here, and be on the lookout for announcements about future City of Ottawa podcasts. That's when we OttaTalk about something completely different. And to play us out, here's a little more of Smooth Samba by Anchito.